Hello, horror fans. Today I will tell you a scary story that will shock you. I warn you, children, stay away from the screens. This story is full of paranormal events.
I know I won't make it out of this. I don't know how long I have left to write this down before it finds me again. But there's no choice now. No one would believe me if I just disappeared. Maybe they won't believe this, either. It doesn't matter. If I don't tell someone, anyone, about what happened, the memory will eat me alive. If you're reading this, you're too late to stop what's coming. But I guess that's not your fault, is it? I'm still trying to come to terms with what happened. Hell, I'm still trying to understand how it all happened. It was a typical excavation trip, or at least that's what I thought. I was a field archaeologist working in a small company out of Charleston. The project was supposed to be nothing special. A simple dig for a local historical society. They found something in an old cave system up in the Appalachian Mountains, a burial site, ancient, pre-Columbian, the kind of thing that occasionally surfaces in the deepest parts of America's forgotten woods, but Hollow Ridge wasn't like any other place. The locals warned us, told us to stay out of the caves, that there was bad luck there. I didn't listen. I should have. It was early fall when we got the call. The weather was cooling down, the leaves turning shades of amber and crimson, but the trees surrounding the area seemed darker than they should have been. Almost as though the woods were always on the edge of twilight, even when the sun was directly overhead. The cave we were to explore had been untouched for over 100 years, but it had been known to the indigenous people long before that. According to local myths, the cave was cursed. A place where the spirits of the dead never found peace. I never put much stock into old legends. Ghosts? Curses? Superstition. I thought that was all nonsense, a relic of rural folklore. We were there for science, after all. I should have known better. The first day was uneventful. We set up camp near the cave's entrance, unpacked our tools, and began our initial survey. My colleague, Sam, found an odd set of markings near the mouth of the cave, strange, deep carvings on the rock. I didn't think much of it at the time. We were all tired after the long drive and the hike in. The first night was cold, but that didn't seem out of the ordinary. Then things began to get strange. The second day, we ventured inside the cave. The air grew colder the deeper we went, and an oppressive silence hung around us, like the cave itself was holding its breath. The walls were covered in etchings, symbols that no one could immediately identify. But we pressed on, eager to uncover whatever lay hidden. When we reached the deepest part of the cave, we found it. A sarcophagus. It was made of stone, older than anything we had ever seen before. The stone was smooth, almost unnaturally so, and there were carvings etched into its surface that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. I can't describe them now. The images move in my mind even as I write this, blurry and distorted, a twisted blur of shapes I can't unsee. That's when it started. The unease, the feeling of being watched, crept over me like a fog. But it was too late to turn back. We had found something incredible, something that would make our careers. We made the decision to open it. The tools we used to break the seal of the sarcophagus were crude, nothing like the delicate instruments you see in the movies. But we didn't care. We were too excited. Too eager to see what lay inside. When the lid cracked open, I remember the smell first. It wasn't like anything I'd encountered before. Not the musty scent of ancient stone, not the coolness of the underground, but something rotten. Something alive. Then we saw it. A body, mummified and wrapped in linen that had long since turned to dust. But it wasn't just any body. The eyes, or what remained of them, were wide open, staring straight at us, as though they'd been waiting for us. Sam reached forward, despite my protests, and touched the withered hand of the figure. It was cold, too cold. I remember the way the cave seemed to shudder in response, as if the air itself had drawn a breath. We didn't know it then, but we had awakened something that should have stayed buried forever. That night, the dreams started. At first, they were subtle, fleeting visions of shadows in the corners of my eyes, of whispers just beyond the reach of understanding. But by the third night, they became more vivid. More real. I could see the figure from the sarcophagus, its mouth hanging open, its skeletal fingers clawing at the air as though begging for release. And then, one night, it spoke, not in words. It didn't have to. The voice filled my mind, sharp and guttural, like the sound of rocks grinding together. The voice told me the curse. The promise of vengeance. I didn't sleep for the next few days. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that face, the eyes of the mummified corpse staring through me. Watching me. We tried to leave, but the cave wouldn't let us. Every path we took seemed to lead us back to the sarcophagus. No matter how hard we tried to retrace our steps, the way out kept shifting. I should have left when I had the chance. By the time we realized the cave was trapping us, it was too late. Sam went mad. He started screaming in the middle of the night, thrashing in his sleep, his body contorting as though something was dragging him in two directions at once. When we tried to wake him, it was too late. His eyes were wide open, fixed on something only he could see. His skin was cold, ice cold. He died without a sound, as though something had stolen his breath. I still remember that moment, standing over him, feeling the cold air pressing in, as though the cave itself was closing in around us. We couldn't lead him there. But as I dragged his body out of the cave, I felt it. That presence. That darkness. It was there, just behind me, waiting. Watching, and now it's here. Every step I take, every corner I turn, it's closer. I feel it in my bones. The curse has followed me. It's only a matter of time before it catches me, before I'm dragged back into the cave, to be trapped forever with Sam, with the thing that waits in the dark. So here I am, writing this down, trying to make sense of it all. If anyone finds this, knows what happened, maybe there's still a chance to stop it. To keep it buried. But I know deep down, that's not going to happen. No one will listen, and soon, it will come for you too. It's funny, in a sick way, how the mind works. When you're being hunted, when something is out there waiting for you, you become hyper-aware of every little noise. Every creak in the floorboards. Every gust of wind that slips through the cracks. Every shadow that stretches too far in the corners of your vision. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. That maybe I was still inside the cave, dreaming. Maybe I had never left, but I did leave. Didn't I? I had to have. I didn't know what I was running from. I didn't understand what it was that had claimed Sam. But every step I took from that cursed place, I felt it. The sense that the air was changing, that something was following me, was undeniable. I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter where I went, it would find me. The worst part. It had started with Sam, but it was never about him. Sam was just the first. The first to touch the body. The first to disturb the thing's slumber. It was me who had wanted, when I made it back to the small town near the cave, the one we had parked in before heading out to the ridge. I thought I could breathe. I thought I was safe. People talked to me in hushed voices. They knew something was wrong. The locals had seen it in my eyes, the same haunted look they'd seen in others who had come before me, to that godforsaken place. I didn't believe in curses. Not until now. It didn't take long for the signs to start. The strange dreams, I thought they would end. I thought I could just sleep and wake up, and it would all be over. But no. The dreams were relentless. They always came, each one worse than the last. I saw it, the thing from the sarcophagus. Only now, it was different. Its skin was decayed, hanging off in sheets of blackened flesh. It was thin, but not frail. The thing was towering and sleek, like an ancient predator designed to bring terror. Its eyes were the same, cold, hollow pits, but now they were glowing, 2 points of fire in a void of darkness. It spoke to me again, but this time, there were words. Words that cut into me like knives. You woke me, you disturbed my sleep. And now you will die. I woke up screaming. My throat was raw. My body drenched in sweat, heart pounding in my chest. That's when I knew. That thing wasn't just some figment of my imagination. It wasn't a hallucination brought on by fear and fatigue. It was real. And it was coming for me. I tried to tell myself that I was just losing my mind. I had to be. No one else had seen the mummy, had heard it, had felt its presence. No one but me. I thought if I stayed, if I tried to return to normal life, everything would go back to the way it was. But it didn't. I started seeing things. Not just in the dark, not just in my dreams. In the middle of the day, shadows moved against the light, not the way they should. They had depth. They had substance. They watched me, and then, one afternoon, as I sat in the small diner in town, trying to eat something, trying to act normal, I saw it. The figure standing outside the window, just beyond the glass. Its skin was like old leather, its eyes glistening as it stared at me with that same, hollow, predatory gaze. I froze. My stomach churned. My mind screamed at me to move, to run, but my body didn't obey. I couldn't tear my eyes away from it. The thing knew I was watching it. And it smiled. Or maybe it grinned. It wasn't quite a smile, not like how people smile. But something twisted in its face, as though it were savoring my terror. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Then, with a swift, jerking motion, it disappeared. Vanished as quickly as it had come. That was the first time I knew for certain. I was being stalked. I couldn't stay in the town. I couldn't stay anywhere, really. No matter where I went, I felt the presence. The crawling sensation on the back of my neck. The weight of something looming just over my shoulder, waiting for the right moment to strike. It was only a few days after the diner incident that I began to notice the patterns. It had followed me from the cave, but it wasn't just lingering. It was marking me. Each time I woke from the dreams, there was something new. Something physical. At first, it was small, a scrape on my arm, deep enough to bleed, but no clear source. I thought maybe I'd been too careless while wandering the woods around town, looking for some kind of, I don't know, escape. I was desperate for answers, but then the marks started to appear more frequently. My back, my neck, my chest. Scratches that weren't there when I went to bed. When I woke up, my skin would be raw and tender, as though someone had torn at it during the night. I tried to make sense of it. I even went to the doctor, thinking it was some kind of infection. But the doctor couldn't find anything. He thought I was stressed. Anxiety. Sleepwalking, maybe. I laughed it off, but deep down, I knew better. And then, one night, I saw the most terrible thing. I had managed to get some sleep, or at least I thought I had. I woke up in the middle of the night, the feeling of being watched so overwhelming it brought me to my feet. I went to the window. I couldn't resist the pull to look outside. I had to know. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. The thing was standing in the yard, its form distorted by the moonlight. Its skin hung from its bones, jagged and torn. But what shook me to my core were the hands. They were stretched and elongated, like they didn't belong to a human body anymore. Its fingers reached toward the window, as though it could see me through the glass, and then, just as I thought I would die from the sheer terror of it all, it spoke, not in words. No, this time it didn't need to. I saw its message in the reflection of the window. It was clear now. It wasn't going to stop. It was going to make me pay, and this time, it wasn't just about me. The thing wasn't just coming for me. It was coming for anyone who had ever been in that cave. Anyone who had helped to disturb its sleep. And as the days dragged on, as the scratches deepened and the weight of its presence grew heavier, I realized the terrible truth. It wasn't just hunting me. It was hunting everyone I knew. Everyone I loved. Everyone who dared to look too closely at the mystery of Hollow Ridge. The curse wasn't just a warning. It was a promise, and now, there's only one thing left to do: escape. But how can you escape something that follows you, even when you think you've outrun it? How do you outrun an ancient monster that has all the time in the world? I don't know if I'll survive long enough to find out. I don't know where I am anymore. Maybe I'm not even in the world I used to know. Every moment feels like a blur, like a dream stretched too thin. The real world is slipping through my fingers, slipping away from me as I descend further into the darkness, but I'll try to explain what happened, the best I can, while I still have time. The worst part of all of this isn't the curse itself, or even the monster that follows me. It's the fact that I know, there's no escape. I should have died in that cave. I should have stayed dead with Sam, or wherever the thing had planned for us. But somehow, I broke free. And now, it's using me. The curse is a slow, agonizing process, but in the end, it will claim me. And when it does, I'll never be able to escape. No one will. After the incident at the window, after I saw the thing staring at me with those eyes, I knew it had come for me in full force. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think straight. The deeper I got into the madness, the more I saw its influence spread. It was like it was weaving a net around me, tightening with every passing day, but it was the people around me who truly suffered. It was like I had become a beacon, a magnet for all the horrors of the cave. My family, my friends, anyone I had even briefly encountered after returning from the mountain, started to feel the pull. It started subtly. A friend of mine, a woman named Claire, had stopped by my apartment a week after I came back from Hollow Ridge. She was a childhood friend, someone I trusted. She looked different. The way she spoke was different. When she smiled, it was forced. But when I tried to talk to her about what had been happening, about the dreams, about the thing I had seen, she just laughed it off. She thought I was just going through some kind of trauma, that I needed a therapist, someone to talk to. But that night, something changed. Claire went missing. I called her over and over, but the phone just rang. I drove by her apartment, and the lights were off. There were no signs of struggle. But something told me that it had gotten to her. I didn't even need to see it. I knew. The entity from the cave didn't just target me, it marked the ones I loved, the ones who might have noticed something was wrong. The next morning, I received a call from the police. She'd been found, dead. She wasn't alone. There was someone else with her. A woman. A woman I didn't recognize. They said she was in the woods, near a ravine on the outskirts of town. Her body had been mutilated, brutalized in a way that made my stomach churn. Claire's body, too, had been left to rot in the dirt. But her eyes were wide open. Frozen. And I could swear that when I saw the coroner's report, when I saw her body laid out on the table, she looked like she was staring straight at me, just like Sam had been in that cave. This thing was messing with my head. With all of our heads. It was toying with us, using us to build its power. I tried to warn everyone, but no one believed me. They thought I was spiraling, thought I was imagining things. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to believe this was all in my head, but I knew it wasn't, and the whispers in my mind grew louder. The dreams had evolved by now, merging with the waking world. I couldn't tell where reality ended and the nightmare began. The thing, that thing from the cave, was always there. It was in the corners of my vision, in the dark places where shadows moved just a little too unnaturally. It wasn't just hunting me anymore. It was using me to lure others in. To destroy everything I cared about. I tried to fight it. I really did. I moved, several times, from place to place. I destroyed all the old things, anything that reminded me of the cave, of what happened there. I even left town for a while, hoping that getting away from the place would somehow sever the connection. I thought if I could just put miles between me and Hollow Ridge, I could outrun the curse, but the thing didn't need the cave anymore. It was following me. Wherever I went. At first, I tried to keep it together. I told myself it was still possible to fix things. I told myself I could save everyone, but Claire's death wasn't the only one. There were more. A man who had been in town when we first arrived. A friend of Sam's. His body turned up not far from where we had camped out before heading into the cave. His throat was slashed open, as if something had dragged him through the forest, leaving deep gouges along his skin. His body was discarded like trash, and then the others. Each one connected to me, to my time in that cursed place. They were being picked off one by one, and the police were no closer to finding the killer. They started questioning me, asking if I had any idea why these people were dying, but I didn't know how to explain it to them. How could I? How could I tell them that an ancient thing, something older than the land itself, was hunting everyone I loved, and would not stop until I was dead? But that's the thing about curses. They don't just take one life. They take them all. It's a cycle. It's a hunger. I can feel the end coming now. The whispers are louder than ever. The thing is closer. The marks on my skin are more frequent, deeper. I wake up with the taste of blood in my mouth sometimes. Sometimes I see the thing in the reflection of windows, in mirrors, in doorways. Always there, watching. There's nothing left. I've tried everything. I've gone to the nearest church and prayed. I've burned every piece of clothing I wore while in the cave. I've written this, tried to warn anyone who would listen. But there is no escaping it. It's too late for me. As I write this, I can hear it. The sound of its footsteps, slow and deliberate. The thud of its feet on the floor, just outside my door. I know what comes next. It's coming to finish what it started. It will make sure I suffer just like the others. There's only one thing left for me to do. I'm going back to the cave. Maybe I'll find a way to stop it. Maybe there's a chance that if I return to the place where it all began, I can destroy it. Maybe I'll end it all. Or maybe, just maybe, I'll join Sam, and Claire, and everyone else. A part of the curse, forever.